Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Archana Solanki. Here are the headlines we're tracking this evening. Sensex and Nifty snap a 6-day losing streak. Sensex gains nearly 600 points. Nifty reclaims 25,000. Mid-caps outperform. China's stock market rally loses steam. Country's top economic planner stopped short of announcing immediate stimulus measures to boost consumption. The World Bank also slashes China's GDP forecast. Israeli strikes killed 25 people, including women and children in Gaza, as Palestinians mark 1 year of the war. Hamas launches a barrage of missiles at Tel Aviv. Israel also expands the ground offensive in Lebanon. Crude oil prices retreat after the recent surge. BJP looks set to retain Haryana and secure a historic third term, defying exit poll projections. Congress fails to take advantage of the anti-incumbency after protests by farmers and wrestlers. Omar Abdullah looks set to return as Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. The National Conference and Congress Alliance looks set to form the next government. BJP sweeps Jammu region but fails to open its account in the valley. The PDP gets decimated. Ola Electric receives a notice from the Central Consumer Protection Authority over rising complaints from consumers. Company promises to respond within 15 days, says the notice will have no impact on financial, operational or other business activities. Asian Paints eyes a potential acquisition of AkzoNobel assets. CEO Amit Single says the company is interested in acquiring parts of the business if it becomes available. That's an exclusive. Weight loss drugs are taking off in India, even as the overall market size remains less than 600 crore rupees. The sale of drugs is growing at a compounded annual rate of 37% in the last 5 years. Right, let's start with the market action. The bulls clawed back on the last street to snap a 6-day losing streak. Sensex gained nearly 600 points and the Nifty moved back above the 25,000 mark, gaining over 200 points. Mid-caps outperformed the blue chips with the index gaining over 2%. Surbhi Upadhyay is here with the day's wrap.
Well, the bulls finally managed to surface after 6 days of a constant drubbing. And they did that in style because the market had green all over it across the length and breadth of it. And this is largely thanks to two factors. Number one, the fact that policy stimulus in China underwhelmed today. And number two, there was a surprisingly strong performance coming in from the BJP in Haryana. So let's talk about the first factor, which is China. And you saw that play out in the volatility in the Chinese market itself. Now, what happened is that the Chinese stimulus measures that came in, they were not directly talking about any boost to either real wages or consumer sentiment or consumer spending. It was more about loans being given to different sort of state governments and an indirect way to stimulate the economy. And the market didn't like that. The Hong Kong market actually crashed almost 10%. And the mainland Chinese market, which opened after a week-long holiday, that also closed with gains of just about 4.5% versus a 10% gap up. So the China factor got people to question that rally and maybe focus back to India. Let's talk about what worked here across the board, like I'm saying. The Nifty was up about 1%, Bank Nifty 1% higher. The mid-cap index was soaring about 2%. And if you look at the gainers, Adani Enterprises, Adani Ports, stocks like BEL on the PSU side, Reliance, L&T, you name it. You know, big banks like SBI, HDFC Bank, and the entire auto pack was really revved up. Names like M&M and Bajaj Auto did really well. Trent deserves a special mention. It was the best performing stock on the Nifty today, and it was sparkling on the market's excitement around its foray into lab-grown diamonds. And that's the same reason why Titan was under pressure, another Tata Group company. But the question was whether there will be some kind of cannibalization in sales over there. So very interesting divergent trends on these two Tata Group stocks. Let's talk about the mid-cap rally then. Stocks like HEG moved higher. They are buying about 8% in an international graphite electrode maker. Varun Beverages had a great day. Bajaj Housing Finance, 10% pole vault happening. Paytm had a good day, and Ola was in focus on the back of regulatory action and the show cause notice that the company has received over consumer complaints. One needs to see what happens really, whether the China situation has totally sort of resolved itself, that whole FBI selling India and that move to China, or whether we could still see traces of that. But for today, the bulls will heave a sigh of relief that they finally managed to put some green on the board.
Thank you, Surabhi, for that. The rally in Chinese stocks slowed down today after the country's top economic planner provided few details on further stimulus measures. China's benchmark index soared over 10% after 7 days of holiday, but closed with gains of 5% following the announcement. Meanwhile, Hong Kong's Hang Seng clocked its heaviest losses since 2008. The country's National Development and Reform Commission announced early use of bond money on projects. This disappointed the market, which expected stimulus measures to boost consumption. Meanwhile, the World Bank has warned that China's economic growth rate is expected to decline further in 2025, despite a temporary boost from the recent stimulus measures. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Morgan Stanley's Chetan Haya said that he remains cautious on China. Listen in.
We have already cut down our China growth, and we have brought it down to 4.6% versus the government target of 5%. And if there were to be aggressive policy actions taken, we would have had to lift our growth estimates. Our equity strategy team has put out a note today morning, and they've still maintained underweight on China. And it's sort of similar to the view that I mentioned earlier that, we will need to see more evidence of fiscal expansion targeted towards consumption.
Tensions continue to flare in West Asia. Israel has expanded its ground offensive in Lebanon and is conducting targeted operations in the southwestern part of the country. Until now, Israel's military offensive had been limited to the eastern border of Lebanon. The fresh strikes by Israel followed an intensive wave of air raids which marked 1 year of the war in Gaza. The raids involving 100 aircraft targeted about 120 sites in Lebanon. Meanwhile, Israeli military reported that Hezbollah launched 190 rockets at Tel Aviv on Monday. Israeli strikes killed at least 25 people, including women and children in Gaza, as Palestinians marked 1 year of the war. The Israeli military called for an evacuation in northern Gaza as part of a fresh military operation. Israeli tanks made their way into Jabalia refugee camps, with the military dropping leaflets saying, "We are in a new phase of war." Meanwhile, Hamas launched a barrage of missiles at Tel Aviv. Russia has hit a major Ukrainian airbase with a hypersonic missile. Ukraine has said that there were no civilian casualties and no damage to critical infrastructure. Kyiv has said that Russian missiles also struck 2 vessels in the Black Sea grain export hub in Ukraine's southern part of Odessa. This is the second such attack in as many days. This comes as Russian forces entered the outskirts of a key frontline city in the eastern part of the country. Crude oil prices have retreated after the recent surge. Brent continues to hover around the $80 mark. Union Petroleum Minister Hardeep Puri said there is no reason for India to panic over the oil prices.
There is no panic, point one. I keep reiterating that there is more than enough oil available in the world. You understand? What happens when the global turbulence takes place? We all, especially India, we call for restraint, we call for peace, we call for dialogue. That's one process. But if some things happen which is outside anybody's control, then sometimes because of diversion, freight rates go up, insurance goes up. These are all manageable things.
The big national story, the BJP is all set for a historic 3rd consecutive term in Haryana. The BJP is comfortably above the halfway mark in the 90-member assembly, according to the trends at 4 p.m. BJP has managed to defy exit polls, which pointed to a Congress victory. The party has also managed to buck the anti-incumbency wave after protests by farmers and wrestlers. These results come as a shock to the Congress party. Senior leaders from Haryana were camping in Delhi after the exit polls, hoping to be the next chief minister, but BJP's Naib Singh Saini, who was appointed chief minister just months before the elections, has managed to take the party over in line. Now, in what comes as a silver lining for the Congress, former wrestler Vinesh Phogat has won her seat from Julana. The Congress party also approached the Election Commission alleging slow counting of votes. Here are the big newsmakers from Haryana.
आदरणीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी, ये पूरा का पूरा श्रेय मैं आदरणीय मोदी जी को देता हूँ। उनके आशीर्वाद से, उनकी गाइडलाइन के अंदर, उनकी जो नीतियाँ हैं, उन नीतियों के ऊपर हरियाणा के लोगों ने मोहर लगाई है मैं हरियाणा की जनता का जहां दिल से धन्यवाद करता हूं, उनको प्रणाम करता हूं।
जनता ने कांग्रेस की बात को नकारा, भारतीय जनता पार्टी की बात को उन्होंने सराहा, स्वीकार किया और मैं समझता हूं कि एक जनता ने एक ऐसा संदेश दिया है कि मोदी जी के जो सरकार की नीतियां हैं, मोदी जी की जो उपलब्धियां हैं, जो हमारा काम करने का तरीका है, कार्यपद्धति का, वो जनता के ऊपर असर कर रहा था और जनता ने उसका प्रत्युत्तर में भारतीय जनता पार्टी की हरियाणा में तीसरी बार सरकार बनाई है।
ये हर उस लड़की की, हर उस महिला की लड़ाई है जो संघर्ष के रास्ते को हमेशा चुनती है। आज संघर्ष की जीत हुई है, सच्चाई की जीत हुई है और मैं चाहती हूँ कि हमारे लोगों ने जो प्यार प्रेम दिया है, जो इस देश ने मेरे को प्यार प्रेम दिया है, उसको मैं हमेशा बना के रखूँ, उनके विश्वास को हमेशा बना के रखूँ।
From Haryana to Jammu and Kashmir, Omar Abdullah is all set to return as the Chief Minister of the Union Territory. The alliance between National Conference and the Congress is comfortably above the halfway mark in the 90-member assembly. The PDP, led by Mehbooba Mufti, has been decimated and the former Chief Minister said that the party will play the role of a constructive opposition. The BJP managed to sweep the Jammu region but could not open its account in the valley. The Aam Aadmi Party has also won a seat. It's first in the Union Territory. The patriarch of National Conference, Farooq Abdullah, said his son, Omar Abdullah, will return as the Chief Minister.
मुझे जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों की खिदमत करने का दोबारा एक मौका जो है हासिल हुआ है। यहाँ बहुत सी ऐसी तंजीमें खड़ी की गई जिनका मकसद था नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस को ख़त्म करना, लेकिन अल्लाह का फजल है कि जो हमें ख़त्म करने के लिए आए थे मैदान में, वो खुद ही मतलब उनका कोई नामो निशान नहीं रहा।
मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जम्मू कश्मीर ने एक बहुत बड़ा मैसेज दिया है। आप इस देश के किसी भी राज्य की अस्मिता के साथ खिलवाड़ नहीं कर सकते हैं। आप इस देश के किसी भी राज्य को घटाकर यूनियन टेरिटरी नहीं बना सकते हैं। जम्मू कश्मीर को ये काबिले बर्दाश्त नहीं था। बीजेपी ना सिर्फ कश्मीर में बल्कि जम्मू में भी हार रही है।
मुझे इस बात की खुशी है कि जिस तरह से लोगों ने वोट किया एक स्टेबल गवर्नमेंट के लिए, तो जो इसमें गड़बड़ करने का कोई चांस नहीं अब, क्योंकि लगता था कि अगर मैंडेट कुछ मिक्स्ड होगा, अगर एक तरफा मैंडेट नहीं होगा तो फिर उसमें बहुत सी शरारतें हो सकती थी, बहुत सारी उथल पुथल हो सकती थी और कहीं ना कहीं यहाँ के जो लोगों ने मैंडेट दिया है उसको डिफीट करने की बात हो सकती थी।
Right, it's time for a short break. More news and updates continue on the other side. Stay tuned.
As the Israel war against the Hamas and Hezbollah rages on, Israel has also vowed to retaliate against Iran. And Iran has said that they will not remain quiet in case there is any further escalation by Israel. Joining us right now to speak about Iran's view of the present situation in the Middle East and what they expect from India is Ambassador Iraj Elahi, the Iranian ambassador to India. Ambassador Elahi, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me.
My first question to you would be, what's your message to India at this juncture? We're not going to be immune to any crisis in the Middle East if the situation escalates.
I hope that the situation will not escalate. We hope that all countries who have influence on Israel will do their best to convince it to move toward the escalation, since what we have done was retaliation to the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in the Tehran, capital of Iran. So the first, it was a retaliation to the violation of Iranian sovereignty. So if Israel will do anything again, we will be obliged to retaliate and we will enter a new circle of tension. So it will be on the benefit of all countries in the region and at the global level to convince Israel to restrain and move toward the escalation.
Right. Is Iran preparing for an all-out war, considering that Israel's reaction to the 7th October attack has lasted for more than 1 year? Even yesterday, their spokespersons have said that the mission against Hamas and Hezbollah is not over. So is Iran now preparing for a all-out war?
We are not with war. We do not want war, but we are ready for any option. Unfortunately, Israel and its ally, especially United States, have miscalculated regarding the situation inside Iran and the region. They believe that since Iran is under a heavy embargo, economic embargo and sanction, Iranian economy is weak and is not able to defend itself. But it's, we can easily prove that we are capable militarily, economically, politically, and the people are supporting the government despite of the, the different difficulty inside countries.
Right. I'd like to ask you about the economic impact of the war. As a result of sanctions, over the years, the Indian-Iran trade has substantially come down over 10 years. The trade with Israel has increased. Is there today some amount of disappointment that the economic ties between the two countries have not really revived ever since the sanctions were put on Iran?
The level of trade between Iran and India mostly have been constant. After the withdrawal of Trump withdrawal of JCPOA, there was a sharp drop in the trade between Iran and India. But after that, both Iranian and Indian businessmen have found their way to continue their trade on the benefit of both nations. Now we are importing different Indian products and we are supplying different Iranian goods to Indian market.
Right. What about oil trade? Is there any talk between India and Iran to resume crude imports?
We have expressed our readiness to restart delivering oil to India, but at the same time we understand the conservation of Indian side because of the sanction. But we hope that there, there will be some progress in this regard.
Right. What difficulty has India really expressed at this juncture? Because India continues to buy oil from Russia. Russia, in fact, is the top supplier of oil to many countries, including India. Is there some disappointment with the fact that we're not buying oil from Iran?
India is a good friend for Iran. India is not a friend of just 65 years as Israel is. We have both nations, Iran and India, have been together alongside, history. So we fully understand India. We fully are aware of the consideration of India. So we are trying to find some way to bypass these difficulties, these problems.
Right. Coming back to the situation, in case the situation in Middle East escalates, if Israel carries out further attacks on Lebanon, on Gaza, and if it carries out an attack directly against Iran, how does this affect trade through the Suez Canal, the Red Sea? How do you think the global crude oil trade, export-imports through the region will get impacted, sir?
This is an important and essential issue in the economy, in the world economy. As you know, the events in the Red Sea has affected, the war between Israel and Hamas has affected the transportation or cargoes passing through the Suez Channel. So we hope that all influential, those countries who have influence on Israel can convince Israel to move toward the escalation. Otherwise, all country will be suffering from the current situation and the escalation of the tension.
Has the war with Israel, what's happened in the Middle East right now, has it impacted work on the Chabahar port?
No, categorically no. I categorically reject this. Chabahar is in the southeast of Iran, which is far from the western border of Iran, and nothing can reach to Chabahar, nothing. And beside this, the tension in the region has proved the importance of Chabahar and INSTC importance as the best, safest, cheapest, shortest way for the Southeast Asia to reach to Russia, Eurasia, and Europe. So the current situation in the region has accelerated the implementation of different projects which are related to the Chabahar, such as connecting Chabahar to the Iranian national network, railway network.
Right. I'd like to ask you about the IMEC corridor that Europe, Israel, India, and United States are working on. Do you think that a part of the reaction that we have seen is a result of the work that's going on the IMEC corridor?
You know, in fact, IMEC is a try to, you know, we can analyze or interpret IMEC from different or two aspects. From the Indian angle, you know, India is trying to diversify its routes to the market. So it has, India has right to diversify, and we fully understand it. But at the same time, from the Western countries such as United States, Israel, there is another attempt to change the geopolitics of the region. For this, they have meet these two wheels meet at IMEC. So, but regarding the future of IMEC, at least now the current situation in Gaza, in Palestine, and has showed that the chance of success of IMEC is very less.
Right. My final question to you would be, do you hope for more support from India as the situation in Middle East worsens? Do you expect that India will rise up and support its traditional partner, Iran, in the region?
India is our reliable partner, as Iran has been reliable partner for India. This is, you know, the friendship between Iran and India is not just for 1 century. Beside this, economically, our economies are complementary. And the two nations also have, you know, we have nation-to-nation, people-to-people relation. So we hope that India will try and do its best to decrease the tension in the region.
Ambassador Elahi, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Giving us your view on the present situation in the Middle East and how Iran is contemplating future options. Thank you once again for being with us.
And your viewer.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us on Business 360. With that, it's back to you. Thank you very much for joining us on the show.